In this week's readings, we talked about organizing a speech, how to basically put a speech together. It's basically the main steps on how to make your speech flow effectively. You need to have organization. You need to have main points, no more than 4 or 5 main points. It's probably not a good idea to have more main points because you can lose your audience. And also, we talked about how to put a speech together in which you're talking about putting basically the thesis or the introduction, the body, and the conclusion together. It's very similar to an essay. If you want to put it that way, you would put your introduction, what you're talking about, or what your speech is going to be about, the body, you're going to explain what you're talking about, and your conclusion, you're going to end it, but you also need to reinforce it when you're talking to people, an audience, especially speech, because sometimes the audience can get distracted and forget what you're talking about, and so it's best to point out those main points to the audiences. Also, you always need to get the attention of your audience. You also need to reveal your topic when we're talking about introduction, establish credibility and goodwill. Credibility, of course, you need to know what you're talking about. You need to let your audiences know that you know exactly what you're talking about. And with goodwill, you are basically trying to find the interest of the audiences. You're try to show them the best way. Basically, I'm presenting your speech to them the best way that you can explain it. But also reinforcing is very, very important when you're working with speeches because, as I stated, you can get lost. With your conclusions, of course, reinforce. You need to have everything together, is basically before you end your speech. Let the audience know what you're talking about, what this speech was really about, basically. Also, we talked about grabs, pie grabs, line grabs, all kinds of grabs that we talked about. It's good when dealing with statistics, things like that. So that was really interesting to learn about. This week's readings were very interesting. It wasn't too much information given to me at one time. This week's readings were a little bit more shorter than the past readings. Anybody that's been having trouble with reading and trying to follow along because there's so much information given at one time, this week was very easy to follow along with. Also, it gave a lot of great examples. That's always a great thing. And all I have to really say about this week's readings is that it's very informative. It lets you know how to prepare a speech, how to outline a speech. It really broke it down, how to find your main points as well. That's key to trying to present your speech, knowing exactly what you're talking about. And also we talked about bibliographies, finding your sources, getting your information, making sure that it's something that's credible. So, with that being said, I really enjoyed this week's readings. It was very interesting. Wasn't too lengthy. So I cannot wait to next week's readings. And thank you for listening to my speech.